Hola, I'm Ray Green, and welcome to Tuesday Tactics. Now, today we are going to talk about 5 sources of LinkedIn traffic that I've leveraged to sell more than $600,000 in the past 2 years. So I have, like I said, I've generated more than $600,000 in sales in the past couple of years. I've done it without running ads, like paid ads, and I've done it without torching my brand by spamming people and sending 42,000, messages a day and, pitch slapping people. So this week, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share 5 sources of LinkedIn traffic and sales opportunities that I've used to sell my B2B sales audit, my 360-degree sales audit, and my solopreneur sales accelerator program. All right. Now, the first source of traffic is views of my profile. And this is one of LinkedIn's really unique features, is that it lets you see who's viewed your profile. And that's sometimes I wish every social media platform would do that. But that's a highly effective way, or a great place to start conversations with strangers. And here's why. In marketing, you have like different levels of engagement from your prospects, right? The labels that I put on mine in the cycle are awareness, and then interest, and then intent, right? And one is awareness, is just generally aware. Interest is interest in my product or services. Intent is ready to buy. Okay. And the further along you move in that process, the more likely someone is to make a purchase. And when someone views your profile, they are, like, by definition, they are at least aware of who you are. And since they visited your profile, they've given you a built-in icebreaker so that you can start a conversation that sounds more like a casual introduction than it is a cold convo, right? Because they've at least been there. They've at least checked out the profile. One word of caution here is, don't assume that just because someone has viewed your profile that it indicates interest, right? It indicates awareness, but it doesn't necessarily indicate interest, because somebody goes to view your profile, you might actually be the prospect in that scenario. So just keep that in mind, that it doesn't necessarily indicate that they're interest or have high intent, but they're at least aware and they've given you an opportunity to start a conversation. The second place that I look at is people that have engaged in my content. So if you're publishing content here and you're getting engagement, that can be like a really great source to go start conversations. And you can do this by, you can ask conversational questions in posts, like in the actual content, to generate content or to generate comments and get some engagement with the answers, right? You can use polls. I know those have become less popular, thank God. But you can use polls really strategically to identify if you're asked the question the right way, figure out what their problems are, figure out what their pains are, and then following up with the people that have answered your poll. Another place to start is soliciting direct responses from people, and what I call them hand raisers, right? So posts that invite people to tell you that they're interested. Something, hey, comment me below to, receive a such and such. Now you don't want to like overuse that tactic. And I've heard recently that LinkedIn and some other social media platforms are actually suppressing some of that more direct hand raiser type of content, but it has worked really well for me just recently in starting some conversations that led to revenue. Or you can simply start a conversation in your direct messages by thanking people for engaging in your content and then linking to it. Sending them a message and saying, thanks for engaging with my content. Here's the post that you engaged with, and start the conversation that way. Now, it's not an exhaustive list. There's I'm sure hundreds of ways to use engagement to start conversations, but these are a few ways that have proven for me to turn content that creates awareness into marketing that actually generates some revenue. Right. And the best part of these conversations is that you're starting them from a stronger position of credibility than you would if you were just starting these things cold. Right. The third source of traffic for me has been inbound connection requests. So people that are sending me connection requests. And this is a great place to start conversations. People are inviting you to connect. They may be trying to sell you something. Okay, that's fair. But they also might be people that have some degree of interest in your content. Maybe they want to see more of it. Or if your headline on your profile is written the right way and your social profiles are all positioned really strategically, then they may have some interest in what you're selling, right? But the thing is, you can't necessarily rely on buyers, on prospects that are in that phase of interest to reach out and tell you that. Okay. That's why when engaging with people that are sending you connection requests can be a really lucrative source of conversations. And the best way to find out if someone's just inviting you to explore more of your content or because they're interested is ask them, start a conversation. Okay. On the other side of inbound connection requests are the outbound connection requests, the ones that you're sending to people as you're building your audience. Okay. And those can be a really productive tool to start a conversation if you know exactly who your ideal client is, right? Who your target market is, and the specific problem that you solve for them, right? Clarity on those two things helps you create some messaging that gives you what you need most to create marketing that actually works, which is relevancy. People don't want to get messages on shit that's not relevant to them. But if something is highly relevant to them, then you could usually start a conversation with it. Without clarity of who you serve and what problem you solve, you're going to be stuck with like really generic messaging it sounds more like spam than it does a solution, right? And to make this work really well, like I recommend promoting more than like pitch slapping, right? Like, hi, how are you? Buy my shit, right? Like, so there's a difference between subtly promoting to a very targeted audience a solution to a problem that they have a high likelihood of having, and just asking people to buy your shit or book a call as soon as they make virtual eye contact with you by clicking accept. Okay. So, be willing to date a little before you ask people for marriage. And if you do this the right way, like I've actually gotten compliments on my DMs from people that say, hey, genius tactic. All right. And when you don't, when you don't do this really well, it can go south, pretty quickly. Okay. The fifth thing is the fifth source of traffic, is leveraging other people's audiences. And the last and probably most powerful source of traffic, at least on LinkedIn, is other people's audiences. And to give credit where it's due, this was actually introduced to me by solopreneur and LinkedIn influencer, Justin Welsh. And here's how it works. Like, make sure that the headline on your profile clearly communicates who your audience is and what problem you solve for them. And then find a handful of people with audiences that are bigger than yours that are creating good quality content consistently for the same market. And then find out when they post and make time to regularly engage with their content with comments and replies. And like the goal here it's to add value on these threads. It's to add value in that content, while building credibility with your audience on your subject matter. The goal is not to hijack these threads and be an asshole or obnoxiously try to sell your shit in the comments. Like, that's why it's best to find some people that are talking to the same market, but may not be a direct competitor. But it's a really, really great source. So there you have it. Those are 5 proven sources of traffic from LinkedIn, all of which we've leveraged to generate business that you can start using today, no matter how much content you're creating or how many followers you have. Cool. Until next Tuesday, that's all I've got. Adios.